Hi, good afternoon, everybody. I hope you guys can hear me. Thank you for joining us this afternoon and Salam Ramadan to our Muslim participants today. You see, we have about 100 over attendees right now on Zoom. We probably have a little bit more on FB Live. Welcome for today's Top in Tech episode. Through the use of intensive labor force in the production this phase is commonly referred to as the fourth industrial revolution, or we call it in short 4IR. The intensity of transformation, particularly during the COVID-19 pandemic, has changed the way economies function, the way societies interact, and definitely the way businesses operate. Today, Kara and I are thrilled to listen to what our esteemed panelists, who are veterans in their respective roles with regards to 4IR, on exactly where we are as a nation in this evolution. Over to you, Karam. We can't hear you, Karam. Can you guys hear Karam? Sorry, guys, I think we may have some technical issues there. Can you give us a second? We try to resolve. Yeah, we are in a Top in Tech show, and we have a technical issue right now. We can see Karam, we can't hear Karam. Karam, can you remove your headset? Potentially, maybe if it's connected in some way. Okay. We get some help from the Kini Events team, please. Sorry, guys, hang on just a little bit. Okay, I think Karam has left us. Okay, so I guess the lady have to come and save the day. I'm gonna stand in here for Karam until he gets back in and fix his audio. So without waiting further, I would actually like to sort of start off with the introduction of our three panelists. We will be getting our first panelist to come on stage right now, Rejab. Hi, Karam. Do you want to try and test your audio again? He's still connecting to audio. I'm not going to wait for you. I'm going to get Rejab. Can we have you on screen for your introduction of yourself as our first speaker?
But I'm not allowed to turn on my video.
Oh. Sorry, although this is episode 23, we are still having some technical issues.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, there you are. Okay, over to you, Rejab.
All right. Can I have my intro slides? Thank you. So, good afternoon, everyone. Salam Ramadan to all Muslims members of the session. Yeah, first, let me introduce TM1. So today, TM1 is not just about offering digital connectivity. It's not just about the fiber. It's also about wireless 4G, 5G. And we are also building the foundation for digital infrastructure so that we can offer to the all of our customers, whether it's enterprise or government. So that is what we are serving today for the customer, whether it's public sector, real estate, healthcare, and manufacturing. We are talking about manufacturing today. Next page. Okay, when we talk about smart manufacturing and when we want to relate to digital transformation, it's not just about smart manufacturing. So we need to look into the digital supply chain before and after, and so on towards the ecosystem of the factory or manufacturing. Then there is a connected customer so that they can access to real-time value chain data and And then the convergence, the linking of the business imperative with the operational data, so that you can have the end-to-end, the driving that drive the digital transformation for manufacturing. Next page. So at TM1, so when we look at the smart manufacturing specific, we can do two parts. We can break into two parts. One is the core services of the manufacturing that manage the equipment efficiency. Then we can look on top of that to exploit more potential, so that we can utilize the AI, the machine learning, so that we can have the intelligence to manage the equipment efficiency. Next page. To visualize this, so you can have all the physical interface, whether it's to the sensors, the IoT sensors, whether it's the human-machine interface, the environmental sensing, the speed RPM sensors, the system check, the camera sensing, the temperature sensor. So all these connected to the communication and gateway, then you can have the dashboard. So all these dashboard will tell you all the performance and when you need to do certain things, certain maintenance at what time of the year, so that you can avoid the downtime, you can avoid unscheduled maintenance. Then you can have all the integration back to any system that you have today, so that you can have the full visibility of what you have in smart manufacturing. So that will be my intro. Back to you, Zelia.
Oh, Zelia, can you hear me now?
Oh, thank God. Your voice is so lovely. I can hear you now, Karam.
The webinar gods have been kind. So I'm going to start my video also, because if the audio gets disrupted, then I'll just switch to audio, right? Because obviously my voice is more important than my looks here. So thank you, Rejab, for your sharing. I've been listening from the very beginning. Maybe then we'll bring on to our entrepreneur, right? Professor Dr. Yeong, who's had a very interesting journey, and he can tell us very up close the challenges, pain points he had with the customers. But later in the Q&A, this is overview first. So Prof, the floor is yours. Sorry, the screen is yours.
Thanks, Karam. Good to see you back here. Yeah.
Thank you,
good afternoon. Yeah, good afternoon, everyone, and salam Ramadan. So my name is Yeong. I'm a co-founder and director of DA Automation Robotics. I'm also an associate professor at University Technology Malaysia. Next slide, please. So DS was founded back in 2012 together with two of my students. Around we have about 70 staff, and we basically design robot for the industry. So when we talk about robot, I think best to show the video, right? So let's show the next slide and the videos. So I just show straight to the sub application. Yep, next slide. So basically you see a robot that actually help in the factory to carry stuff from one place to another. And this is also another robot that we do. If you've been to some sushi king in Malaysia, you see this small little robot, and it's actually from us also. We actually collaborate with our partner to provide this OEM robot, a sushi delivery robot. Next slide. And slowly also, it depends on the application, we can add a robot arm on the AGV or AMR, then it can behave like a human. And then we also have multiple robots in one plant. They communicate together to achieve certain tasks together. Next slide. And all in all, the robot is really can help to get some return on investment between 1 to 4 years in Malaysia, a bit long, reduce labor reliance and increase productivity. And our robot is customizable and of course, Industry 4.0 enable. Next slide. So yeah, our robot designed Malaysia, manufactured Malaysia, in fact in Johor Bahru, and we actually exported to a few countries, South Asia, as well as all the way to Europe, Mexico, and recently to France. And these are some of the companies that we are serving. Next slide. Yep, that's what is there for automation. And once again, thank you very much. Back to you, Karam.
Karam is playing hide and seek with us this afternoon. Barry, the screen is yours.
Hello, thank you. So, good afternoon, everyone. Salah Ramadan. Yeah. I'm Barry Leung. I'm the General Manager of SmartMore International, currently based in Singapore. So, next slide, please. So SmartMore is an AI unicorn company focusing on smart manufacturing. So we are pretty young as a company. We are just slightly more than 2 years old. We have been expanding very quickly. We have more than 1,000 employees currently. We have 9 offices, 250 people in R&D, around 100 of them holding PhD. And then we have onboarded more than 100 smart manufacturing projects so far in semiconductor industry, in automotives, in electronics manufacturing. Next slide, please. So regarding our core technology, right? I think it is basically vision AI. So we have our own code-free AI training platform, meaning that you don't need a PhD to generate an AI algorithm. You just what you need is just a normal technician. And then having said that, we are focusing on smart manufacturing. So you can understand that software is not enough. We have our own hardware capabilities, with our own scanners, with our own sensors, with our own industrial controllers. Also, we made our own all-in-one machines. It could be an AOI machine. It could be a SMT machines as well. So next slide, please. So regarding our typical solution, right? Excuse me, I would say that would be a vision system to try to automate the inspection QC process. So imagine for a production line, you have 6 workers sitting together in the QC process. So they need to take up all the components one by one, and then to check for the defects, right? The job itself is tedious. I don't want to be one of them. And then the work is not fast, not accurate, not stable. So after having all these vision system to automate the whole thing, they just need 1 operator. So 6 workers become 1. So I mean, that's the typical solution that we offer. So this is the quick introduction for SmartMore. Once again, thanks for the opportunity. Looking forward to the current session.
So Barry, let me jump in here. I get very scared when I heard you say 6 workers become 1. So, so you are a dangerous man, and your company is dangerous because I see you have raised $200 million in your Series B, right? That shows the potential that investors see in you guys. So it's very interesting. While there's great potential in your company, and it reflects the market you're serving, yet the reality, which is why our topic right today is about, what's real, right? The reality of the situation, because it's frustrating for those who are playing in this space, either as consultants, as service providers, as practitioners, as government trying to promote it. In reality, businesses are still very hesitant to take the move, and it's a bit frustrating. But let me just get started with my first question, which is the same question for all of you, and after that, I'll go into individual questions. And I will start with Rejab, who kicked us off, right? So, Rejab, can you just share with us what you feel is really, without all the hype and all, right? What you feel is the reality, right? Where smart manufacturing in Malaysia is concerned. And if you even want to put it on a scale of 1 to 5, where you think we are, that's fine.
I look at the data of the manufacturing. Is the GDP of Malaysia GDP is like 300 billion GDP contributed to the GDP of Malaysia. And from this number, we know 90% of them, like 98% of them are SMEs. And the report saying that the adoption of the digital for SME is very low. It's like even like 20%. So and we look at the research question to all this manufacturing. Is it today? It's not. It's no longer something that that's something that they need to, because of the pandemic, right? People or manufacturing company today, when you ask the question of what would be your top 3 business priority, the reality today, the top 3 business priority, they will say, I need to improve my resiliency of business and operating model to reduce this uncertainty and operational risk. So that's the first at the top of the mind because of pandemic. And then how do I get better on the operational excellence in manufacturing? Then how do I automate and reduce all these human-based tasks? Because as you can see, for the past 2 years, MCO lifted, MCO again, and so on. That really affecting the manufacturing sectors, right? So although the adoption today is still low, I think manufacturing or the business of manufacturing today has started to look into this. You already know that it's starting to pick up and starting to explore and starting to adopt and look for fund, because it's not short of fund or short of help from the government. That's my thought.
Okay, understood. So I also let the record show that Rejab has been reluctant to grade it or 1 to 5. Okay.
If you want me to grade, then our understanding today of most of the manufacturing still at probably you're gonna say 2.5 rather than IR 4.0. So there's still many that need to move to IR 3.0 before move to this. So I would say like 4 or 5, between 4 or 5.
Okay, fine. All right. Dr. Yeong, same question for you then, and then we'll get Barry to come in.
Yeah, I mean, I've been with some MNC company and all the way to a smaller company like SME. I agree with what Rejab mentioned. Most of the factory in Malaysia are still SME, and they have still a challenge to adopt to even digitization. But going back into some MNC, especially for foreigner, but to be honest, they are somewhat very near to smart manufacturing. They have the technology, they have the connectivity. But the missing part is the last phase of the manufacturing where they can do, the prediction, a little bit more advanced stuff. But they have the infrastructure. But another 80% of the business in Malaysia are still have that kind of a huge resistance to get connected to move into this smart manufacturing for many reasons. And I have heard, number one, they say that, hey, Malaysia, the minimum wage is so cheap, but it doesn't make sense to use a robot to do that kind of a job. And then they don't understand sometimes how a technology can help them. So the awareness is not there. So I think there is a huge gap between the big MNC where they understand the technology that can help them. There's also a bunch of another businesses still are not aware about the potential of this kind of a technology in IL4. Yeah, so that's my take. If you ask me to rate, I will put into 2 areas as well. For the big MNC company, I will rate them about 3 to 4 over 5. But if you talk about SME, then I have to go a little bit more back 1 or 2.
Correct. Yeah, I wouldn't give our SMEs more than 1 out of 5. Yeah. So, but that's the reality. So
I thought it's.
But that's fine.
Sorry.
No. Look, Prof, I think somebody is just quickly asking for your email. You can handle that while let's get Barry to answer this question. And then I'm going to the individual questions for all 3 of you. Barry, would you like to take this question?
Yeah.
Give us your take on this.
Yeah, I mean, this is definitely a very big question. So I would say there are a lot of reasons why the technology is actually very mature. Let's say the AirMile from Dr. Yeong, and then the 5G solution from Rejab, and then my smart manufacturing solution as well. I mean, all of these are very mature, but there could be a lot of reasons, probably it's financial, probably it's awareness. But whenever I meet new client, I would say I'll bring up the reason why they need to adopt. I mean, if let's say they're manufacturers, right? If they have, I mean, currently, if they face no problem in hiring, if they have no issue on increasing costs, if they have no pressure on profit margin, probably they don't need to visit smart manufacturing. I mean, all these technology, right? But that's not the reality, right? I mean, a lot of them are facing all these problems. And I would say smart manufacturing could be one of the solutions.
It's always been one of the solutions, right? Just the entrepreneurs, to seize it and say this solution can be the answer to my smaller margins, maybe, right? Because your big guys your main suppliers are constantly squeezing you. Hey, you need to reduce your cost by 1%, and it's super tough. And not enough seem to have seen that this is the way out of that, a sliding slope where you cannot recover. It's a very slippery slope where you go down and start giving discount to your main customers without adopting technology to improve your efficiency. How can you keep giving a discount to your big customers? But okay, we'll take that. I'm going to jump into the individual questions now. And Rejab, I like this question, right? I think it's from Inche Abdul Aziz, who's an engineer. And he's asking, can this smart manufacturing be extended to kampong industry, right? I think there's another English word for it, but I forget it now. But example, keropok leko business in Kelantan or in Terengganu. So I think for a big guy like you, big companies, that's a challenging question for you. So what's your take? How would you answer him?
Oh, I prepared one page to answer to that question because but it's not all about it's not all about robotics. It's also about you're putting together what you can see in your factory. For example, here we are taking a biscuits factory, right? So you can put a lot of sensors towards the process of producing that biscuits. From the point of chill water, sponge mixer, fermentation, dough mixer, and so on until the packaging. So you can have all the sensors at point of the process. Then you can produce the dashboard and you can have all the performance and all the monitoring of all these process. So that you can do. There are many use cases that we can also share, or we can use it, because it's all about putting on the sensors and do all the reporting, and you can see the efficiency and the rest of the performance of your factory or your manufacturing process.
So it's very interesting, and thank you for this thorough explanation. But it feels like then the question was also about like village industries, right? So obviously you're not going to see a maybe at most a rudimentary factory, right? And the word factory also I use loosely if it's a village industry. This is like your very hardcore KPI driven, quality driven from the customer SME industry. So this won't fit into like this keropok leko. Although not to say that keropok leko cannot be the factory cannot be there's a definition, right? Health definition. I forget it now. There's a minimum health definition for the factory. Air seal and vacuum pack and all that. That's obviously a decent level of manufacturing. But if you want to go to where you've got your sponge maker, fermentation, foaming and baking and all that, I think it's beyond them at this moment. Sorry, I cut you off, Rejab.
Sorry, Karam. It's true. If it is so small and of like a village industry, then it may not fit, because this is probably a medium sized one. True enough. But there's also when we go for any manufacturing, you need to sit and really find out what is really the pain. It's not really solving the problem, or it's not really putting more profitability or more revenue, then it's again back to the very small size of the industry may not be seeing any benefit with.
Correct. So almost, I guess the size of your business also seems to, you're saying that can dictate the value you can get out from moving to, smart manufacturing. Okay, fine, that's logical. Let's move on to Dr. Yeong. I think he got an interesting question from Alan Ho. And these are all questions, by the way, that came from people who RSVP beforehand, but the panelists will be taking some of the questions that you shoot to them live now. So I guess there is, and Alan, who's the CEO of AG Malaysia, is asking, why are most manufacturers reluctant, right, to embrace IR 4.0? And when some people use IR 4.0, it's also a proxy for smart manufacturing. So we are going to use the terms interchangeably, right? How do you make it happen? So what is your experience about the reluctance of making that? And actually, Alan even goes to, is it because of Rejab and 5G? 5G, I can understand. Rejab, that's a big jump, right? So I'll let you take that then.
Yeah, thanks for the question. I think I can share my experience when I started this business 10 years ago in 2012.
Sure.
So I was surprised that when customer came to us, say that, hey, they want an HGV, then we were saying that, hey, this robot is like 50 years technology. It's not something new. What you want to buy from us? Then only we realized that in this part of the world, in Malaysia especially, they can't even buy an HGV. Then we asked the customer, to look for places like Japan and Germany. They charge like 1 million ringgit per robot. So we were like, wow, that's how we started the business. Of course, we are not selling 1 million. We are selling less than 100,000. But moving forward, when we start to build the business, then we went to exhibition, I think in 2016 and 17 at PWTC. And I still remember that this robot is like 50-year-old technology. People come and see, hey, what is this? So cute one. And we cannot even close a deal, man. So there's a lot of awareness is not there. They don't understand what the robot can do and so on. Then we actually sell our robot to, initially when we first started, we wanted to go to SME. At that time we said that we want to have the SME.
True.
We don't want to go for MNC and so on.
Yes.
But at the end of the day, most of our customers are MNC. SME are not able to buy from us at all. But when we went to MNC, we thought that they understand, the robot, the industry, everything, but no. And in fact, when we sell, I think 6 robots to a MNC in Penang, and we asked them, we need to connect to the internet. This is back in 2018 and 19. They will say, no, it's about security. They say you cannot do that, so and so. So there's so much of a hurdle. But moving forward, then I think the government pushed a lot of awareness about Industry 4.0, the Industry Forward. There's so many talk. Now we have customers come to us and say that, hey, Dr. Yeong, is this Industry 4.0 ready? If yes, then we want it. So I think the transformation start to change, the adoption start to increase as well. But having said that also, I think at this moment of time, a lot of people understand the advantages and also the need to move to smart manufacturing. But at the same time, there's a big question people still asking, what is smart manufacturing? A lot of people still don't really understand the full spectrum. What can smart manufacturing bring forward?
Wow, that is insane. I mean, it is absolutely amazing for me to hear you say that in the end, you're targeting SMEs and your first customers were MNCs. I mean, here we are giving large companies credit that they understand pain points and how to adopt, smart solutions. And most of the time, these smart solutions are from technology, right? Optimization and adoption. And here you've got something like you say, it's like a 40-year-old technology and MNCs are your first customers, right? Incredible, man. So I guess maybe I shouldn't be so hard on our SMEs then, right? To say, hey guys, please adopt. And I know the SME Association, all the EXCO members, many of them are losing hair, Barry, because they're just pulling their hair. They want industry to adopt, their members to adopt solutions that make them more competitive. But these guys are just reluctant to. So interesting. But okay, Barry, let me get a question for you, which is from, I think it is Zarina Bakar. She's the GM of the Perdana Leadership Foundation. Interesting. They do a lot of seminars and programs also at conferences, right, around uplifting on people's awareness of using of technology and latest trends. So her question is that what are the quantifiable gains, right, that can be reasonably expected? Interesting. From automation and smarter manufacturing. I like the word reasonably expected. So.
Yeah, I mean, I like the question too because I'm a number guy. I worked in investment banks before, and then
Okay.
yeah, when it comes to the quantifiable gains, right? Maybe I can use the example that I mentioned when I do the company introduction, right? So let's say they want to automate the QC inspection process. And then originally they have 6 workers, and then finally they just need 1 operator. And then actually in that case, right, for that factory, they have 2 shifts. So actually that's 6 times 2, 12 becomes 2. So for that, yeah, for that change, right, of course they need to pay for our solution. But what we're offering is a 6-month ROI. So I mean, yeah, that should be amazing, right? If we are just focusing on the project itself, not to mention that the accuracy actually goes up because we utilize AI, and then not to mention that the speed is faster. Also, they might have a government subsidy on this project. I'm not sure. Also, for the labor, actually they need lower training costs, lower onboarding costs, and then yeah, I mean, yeah, because we still have COVID around, so probably originally they find it difficult to find 12 workers, but now, yeah, what they need is just 2 operators. So that's a big difference.
Understood.
So honestly, I'm not saying that they need to cut the job. We don't like that. But let's say if originally they find it difficult to find these 12 workers, and then, I mean, they just find 4, right? So what they can do is, yeah, I mean, yeah, that's what they can do. So yeah, 6 months, 1 year, I think these are the very good expectation on the project itself, excluding the lower risk and the government subsidy and the lower onboarding costs, all these extra cost saving.
Cost. Okay, interesting. All right, let's just move on. Let me move on to another question for Rejab, right? And this is a question around 5G. What role will 5G play in advancing the manufacturing capabilities of in Malaysia, right? I guess around smart manufacturing. And by the way, please tell your CEO Azizi that Imri, right, that I'm waiting for 5G so that I can become a customer. If I was using 5G now, I could turn on my video, bro. So I cannot on 4G now. I cannot turn on my video. Okay.
Okay, can I have my take on the 5G?
Yep.
Well, basically, everyone probably have heard about the 5G through the news that the rollout is will start with the KL Cyberjaya, and we will reach Penang later on. So what can really 5G do for the smart manufacturing? And this probably more of, well, sorry to say, or it is more of the big manufacturer. So this is big factory, the 5G smart factory. So there are three use cases or 3 areas that 5G can help the smart factory. First, the industry IoT sensors. There is a massive number of sensors that you require 5G. In the campus or in the smart factory campus, then you need the thousands or in millions is all, it's not going to reach million in the factory. In hundreds and in thousands, then you need to depend on 5G. And then when it comes to low latency use case, then you need 5G. And then you can, of course, 5G will offer you the high speed. And when we do that, then you need to have all these, like AI, machine learning, all this, right? Whether this SmartMore offer or the DF automation offer, then you still need the processing power, whether at the edge or at the cloud, then you need to connect that to the cloud. And then you have that private 5G. That's how private 5G or 5G will work or will contribute to the smart factory. And the next page will just taking a few examples of the use cases. These may not be offered yet by TM today, but it could be offered by SmartMore or others. Like, for example, the process automation. And you can have all these 5G enable you inside the smart factory. Then AR repair, that you have that augmented view of all these repairs. Then the 3D printing and the remote monitoring, of course, and the collaborative robotics. You don't have to connect all these robotics with the cables, right? You all this 5G, and then the preventive analytics. So all this can be contributed by 5G, and it's coming. It's coming very soon. So that's coming.
Okay, fine. Obviously, there's so much that can be done, but the key point of the question was that if 5G comes into space, the immediate beneficiaries will be the large manufacturers, right? Because they've got way more higher pressures to be as efficient as they can. Because they're such big users of energy, right? Of technology, of talent also, and materials also. So I see where your 5G comes in. And there are already use cases around the world. Not many yet, but Korea is an interesting place.
Yeah.
And of course, China. But okay, let's move on to quickly a question for Dr. Yeong. And I know, Dr. Yeong, there have been some questions coming from you also, right? They call you Professor Yeong. So in what you want to, but let me just get a quick one first from a Paul Chin, because he touches on what I think Barry was mentioning about maybe possible government grants or subsidies. And he's saying that, asking what about initiatives, right, from our government in promoting the skill sets, right, to move towards, just smarter manufacturing. So this from Paul Chin, who himself is a quality director. So it's interesting.
Yeah, thanks for the question. I'm not able to answer on behalf of the government, but I'm going to answer on the position that in the university and also some of the events that I've joined.
Okay.
So from the university, I think one of the things that we've done is we try to include the smart manufacturing industry 4.0 into our syllabus. And as we know, most of the universities are compliant to certain regulation, ESC and DM. To change the syllabus will take a very long time. So we have to take a bit more creative to include certain element inside, so that we can make our student ready for the when they go out later on. And the other thing that we can do even faster is actually when we ask them to do the final year project, we actually ask them to do something related to smart manufacturing. And I think we have done many things also, and the government try even push a lot of this kind of competition, hackathon, to relate into this, and this actually give the student a real sense of the industrial problem, or to understand what the industry needs. And there is always a debate also saying that, I mean, it's a bit controversial, but many say that the university are not preparing the student for the industry and so on. Right? But if you look into the university point of view, if you look into industry, there's so many things, they can't fit all the industry to the university. So I think the university can do only to provide them a very good foundation and platform, and they're able to learn themselves. And when they go out there, they can just learn whatever they need, according to the vertical of a business they are in. So I think that is a high level of a direction, I would say, from the government, from the university, to make the student, we teach them how to fish, rather than we every time give them the fish. So I just want to address that. I mean, by having join the competition, give them certain fundamental knowledge so that they are ready to swim when they are in the sea out there.
Okay, good. Thanks. Interesting. I think I'm going to get a question from a live question that came, and I'm going to ask Barry this. But before I do that, I think Dorothy Chai also asked an interesting question around ROI. And I do start to hear this question a little bit. And I think it's because customers are maybe businesses are potentially interested, but of course, any entrepreneur, before they invest, they want to know, right, whether they can get back, because then they're answerable to somebody above them. Unless it's the CEO himself says, and he's the owner CEO, right? Hey, let's do this, doesn't matter. Then your ROI pressure is not so much, because he's answering to himself and maybe to his father, right, who's a big tyco. I don't know. But so that's an interesting question. So I see there is interest there. I take that question as a mark that there is interest. So consultants are struggling to answer that. So that's why that question comes, and she's addressing it to all three of you experts. But the question I asked Barry is actually from Ahmed Abdullah, who's asking about the technical challenges, Barry, right, involved in implementing smart manufacturing. Now, maybe you stick to, whether you want to stick your answer to these are the challenges that large companies face or mid SMEs face, I leave it to you, but don't do both, because I suspect the challenges could be a bit different.
I would say the challenges are not 100% related to technology.
Oh, really? Yeah, interesting. Yeah. So he seems to think that technical challenges that are hurdle. Okay, interesting. Go ahead.
Yeah, I would say in a lot of cases that we faced previously, I would say not well. Technology just plays a very small part because in a lot of cases we find out that the products or the solutions are pretty much ready. Yeah, like what I said, right? I saw AGV AMR from Dr. Yeong is very mature. And of course, 5G product from Rejab, very mature. Also, some of our AI products are very mature already. So, I mean, in terms of technology, I mean, to my experience, it's not the real obstacle. One thing, well, I mean, definitely is the financial part. So very likely if you need to adopt, some projects, you might see longer ROI, some are lower, some are shorter, but still you need to pay in advance, so, right? So that is one thing. Another thing is that, when we try to adopt technology in manufacturing, right? Since in a lot of cases, actually the whole production process is not fully automated. So there are still people working inside the production lines, right? So it's not just the technology becomes so important. So sometimes it's the process. So how the people trying to operate the process is another point as well. Yeah, so I mean, when it comes to the full adoption, I mean, like what I mentioned previously, right? There could be a lot of reasons for not adopting, but I would say right now, technology shouldn't be the key point already.
Okay, interesting. I have heard that of somebody else who's in the aerospace industry. He said that smart manufacturing IR 5.0 is not a technology issue, it's a mindset issue. And I was quite so intrigued to have that conversation with him. So very interesting. You're kind of almost reflecting that also. But from the questions coming also, it seems that there is still that first initial hurdle. It's not yet, the mindset hasn't changed. The questions are around, right, ROI, around challenges. And I see one from, I think, an engineer, Rabi or Ramindran, right? Is smart manufacturing about reducing manpower and what is practical? Is it practical for low volume manufacturing production? And I think Wong Tek Kang also gave an interesting observation, right? About, and which is tough love. Like I said, a lot of SMEs are clueless, right, when it comes to adopting, IR 4.0 or whatever, but maybe a bit harsh because remember what Professor Yeong said, even his early customers were MNCs. So, but the question I want to ask next is actually to Rejab then, which is, it's back to Rejab, and then I'll go to Yeong, and then I can see that, okay, good, we still got a bit more time. So all of you keep your questions coming, we will answer your questions. And this is a question, Rejab, for you, I guess from Arif Rashid, right? So which industry do you think has got a high probability as being an early adopter in the smart manufacturing phase? And obviously there's enough funds and the incentive to innovate around this space also.
Sorry, which industry?
Yeah, he's asking which do you think, which industry have the highest probability to be early adopters?
Maybe I can answer that first.
Okay, Dr. Yeong.
Okay, Dr. Yeong to the rescue.
Well, I think the industrial proposals are there already, even since 10 years ago. I think the oil and gas, the semicon have been using this technology far advanced. Yeah. But if we have looking into this question in Malaysia, particularly in which industry, just for information, I have a company do robotics for industry. I have another company, we do rehab, medical. I have another one I just founded to do AI for prediction. And this year, actually, I want to go into agri-tech. And the reason because, the government pushes so much effort, so much funding into this space. And because of COVID, and we still need to eat, but farmers cannot go and do stuff.
Right.
So I think this is one area that I think can consider. And of course, beside the normal manufacturing that is actually very, very, use a lot of technologies like the automotive, the E&E. And I think the next coming up will be the warehouse. People are start to buy online. People in the past, they don't buy online. My wife don't buy online. They don't trust internet. Now, she just love buy online stuff. So we can actually expect the warehouse going to boom a lot more advanced in the near future. So that would be my quick answer.
Okay.
Sorry, Rejab, I cut you.
That's okay.
No.
I think,
That's good.
just to add to that, right? What we are seeing today when it comes to digital transformation, it's not just about the smart manufacturing. As Dr. Yeong mentioned just now, is the automotive. We got this. We are working with the automotive industry to look into all the potential smart solution or automation and also the cloud adoption. So it's not just about the inside the factory, it's the digital transformation of that manufacturing. And Dr. Yeong was also right when he says this is not related to the manufacturing. We see today it seems like it's easier for agriculture to adopt smart agriculture. Because the picture that I shown just now, it's about all the sensors, right? It's not about robotics, all these machineries, automation. It's about sensors and understanding your plantation, your all this the productivity of the agriculture. It seems like they're much easier to adopt.
Yeah, understood. Interesting. Let me move on to a question for Barry now, and I think. This just came in, and I want to go back to another question after that. But also for the three of you, for everyone listening, when we come down to like the last 3 minutes, I'm going to ask each of the panelists for their key takeaways, where they'll give their 30-second wrap as what they feel is the most important thing they want you to take away from this session. But before we come to that, Barry, this interesting question from I guess Fan Yang, right, about predictive maintenance in manufacturing. So, and especially when it comes to companies that are obviously the vast majority still using analog sensors and they're far away from smart manufacturing. How do you see this question, and what would you say to Fan Yang?
Okay, so I'll try to speak for AI, right? Yeah. So actually, if we try to adopt AI in manufacturing, there will be a fair level. So the first level would be to try to automate something that is highly repetitive and highly standardized. So yeah, preferably if it is high volume. So, well, it doesn't mean that we cannot adopt AI in a low volume product. We have a very big client that, well, I mean, they are jewelry maker, high-end jewelry maker. So, I mean, for high-end jewelry, you don't expect high volume, right? But yeah, we face a lot of challenges. So I would say for a perfect scenario, that would be with high volume. So that is on the job level. So when it comes to predictive AI, right, I would say this slightly, I mean, it's not the most easiest part. Yeah, so if it is repetitive and standardized, then it would be the easiest. Yeah, so but when it comes to AI, right, if you want to adopt it, the first level would be on the job level, like what I said, repetitive and standardized. And then second level would be more on the process, like optimization, automation. And then that third level, I would say that would be on the system or strategy level. So basically the whole system could assist the whole the decision-making process as well. Yeah.
Okay, I think let me jump in and just answer that question also, because it reminds me of a session I attended once many years ago, and it was a German company, but they're talking about a customer in China, and they were using all analog equipment. And basically what they did was they took one line. I think the customer obviously had 3 or 4 lines. They took one line of the customer's machinery, right? And they just added sensors, right? So they did not say you got to change everything. They just added sensors to that one line. And after about 3 months, the customer could see the data talking to him, right? And then they started to see value. Oh, this, because then you have visibly, that line is almost like the machine, the equipment is talking to you. So you know what to do in advance, right? Before, it's like your car engine, right? We sit in our car, And if you're driving a carburetor car like me, it's very communicative. Okay, most people are on fuel injection. I'm in a carburetor car still, right? It's very communicative to you. So you got to listen to what the car is telling you. So likewise, the entrepreneur, when they added sensors, the entrepreneur could see the value. Then he added another line. And once you add sensors to your equipment, and you see the ROI coming, then obviously a year or 2 years down the road, you say, hey, what more can I do? Because when they say what more, they know that they can get extra value. So they say what more because they want to enjoy higher value, right? And so it starts like that. So sometimes people say start with a low-hanging fruit, and I've heard you all say that also. And so for companies which are all fully still analog, you can still go to IR 4.0 or smart manufacturing, and you start small, start easy. And there are definitely ways to do, and the three gentlemen here are more than capable of helping you with that. Before I go on to another question, I think this Poa also is asking you all to put on your crystal ball, right? To put on your head and your crystal and bring out your crystal ball, because he wants to ask you all about the estimated timeline that you think SMEs will be more open towards automation and digitalization. Of course, these two are a core part of smart manufacturing. So I won't ask that yet. I just want to ask a question that actually just came from Anand also about professional certification. Very interesting, right? In smart manufacturing, maybe a prerequisite for future talent when they adopt smart manufacturing. And it's a question mark. So is that going to be a prerequisite? Because that almost sounds like you got to be a doctor. You got to graduate from medical school before you practice medicine, right? Or you got to be an engineer before you work in a factory and do that kind of stuff. So it's kind of an interesting question. And maybe I ask the academic/entrepreneur among our midst, Professor Yeong.
Yeah, thanks for the question, I think. I've been thinking that for a while. I mean, it just happened that I'm teaching smart manufacturing for a master student in UTM now.
Okay, sorry. Okay, let me stop you first. When was this program started in the university? I'm just curious to know.
Well, there is no program. It's just a subject.
Oh, it's a subject only. Oh, okay.
Yes. And I was so surprised that actually there is no such subject that actually teaching smart manufacturing in this part of the world. And if there is, it's a master course actually. It's a full master course on smart manufacturing. And that is really back into this question. When we look into smart manufacturing, it's just not you study one day, it's finished. It's actually a whole bunch of everything. It's from the supply chain, from the energy, from the HR, from the politics, finance, all the way. So if you would say that the statement in IR, I think had to be a bit more specific. Is it on big data analytics? Is it from intelligent system? And if you look into the smart manufacturing architect, just a very general one, right? We have this triangle. You start for the connectivity. This is all the asset. The robot, the machine, the conveyor, all kind of the asset lah. Then the next one is a communication, and which is this is where the TM come into the place. Very important to get everything connected. The next one is MES. Then the final one is the ERP system. I think this is the most fundamental architect that you need to have first before you talk about big data, prediction, and so on and so forth. So even each element of the asset can be intelligent itself. For example, autonomous robot and so on. So again, if we can have that set, it's good, but it's going to be big. It's huge.
Yeah, understood. Interesting when you lay that out, right? There is that pyramid there.
Yeah, correct. I just want to add one more. Now people are talking about one very important element, which is the sustainable manufacturing. People are talking about ESG. And the reason why we have this subject on smart manufacturing, because we want to include the sustainable manufacturing in the syllabus to the students. So yeah, people are talking about this, and I think we need to enrich our students to have this kind of knowledge.
Yeah. Well, that's really. I'm actually surprised that I could have missed it. I would have bet money there would have been question around how the trend, the increasing trend towards sustainability, right, syncs with smart manufacturing. Nobody asked that. I think, I could have missed it because there's lots of questions coming, so I could have missed it. But anyway, that's like a whole nother level of conversation on its own. But we are at the tail end of our own conversation now, and I do want to do the wrap up, right, for each of you before I bring Zelia in for her closing comments. And maybe Barry, I will start with you, and if you can just share your key takeaways from today's conversation.
Yeah, I mean, smart manufacturing is definitely the trend. So all these digitalization, AI, MOA, all these technology are actually very mature. It's mature enough to deploy in most production lines. So I would say the next step for everyone is to definitely to learn and to explore and to try.
And then I guess you obviously have enough case studies, right, where customers of all levels have benefited, and so it can help reduce the reluctance or the fear factor, right, of somebody wanting to take that step.
Right.
But it's definitely valuable. Okay. For Rejab, maybe you have the next say on your key takeaway.
I think it's definitely going to happen, right? Whether or not there's a fear or there's a lot of consideration whether or not to adopt the smart manufacturing. In the end, it's always about whether you can produce more, whether you can be profitable, efficient. And when more and more adopt the smart manufacturing, and you're going to be left behind, you're also going to start to think that you cannot be left behind, and you're going to start to adopt as well.
Okay, understood. Prof, the last word on this on you. What is your key takeaway for the audience today?
Yeah, I just want to address about the ROI because there's many questions about that. I think, of course, ROI is the easiest way to justify the installation of an automation IO4. But most of the time, it's not about the ROI. So we have cases where I still remember a plant in KL. They actually hire 4 operators to push a trolley. And this operator doesn't want the job because every time when they push, they get hurt their back and also their knee. So they wanted to buy the robot. But again, the local company couldn't buy it. It's an MNC company. The headquarters cannot allow the capex. So at the end of the day, they use the OPEX to lease a robot. And the operator are very, very happy. So this is one example. Another example that I have is when I talk to the customer, I ask him, what is the expectation, ROI? Then he said, oh, don't worry about the ROI. I just don't want to manage human, unfortunately. So he has a lot of issue, when they hire several people, they are not good in each other, they fight, there are cases, stuff like that. So in what I'm trying to highlight here is back into your company, what is the objective you want to achieve? What is the value? Then you try to see if this Industry 4.0 can really help you to achieve that. I think that is the most important one. Because smart manufacturing is a continuous journey. You won't stop one. Even the first year you do, until the 10th year, you still continue doing it. Okay, Karam, back to you.
Okay, understood. Thanks a lot for that. Okay, great. Can you hear me? Thanks a lot for your comments there. Can you hear me?
Yes, Karam.
Can you all hear me?
Yes, Karam, we can hear you.
Okay, great. So thanks a lot for those concluding remarks. Okay, thanks. Sorry, there was a slight delay there because I turned on my camera, relying on my 4G line. So again, emphasize to TM and get us 5G quick. No, don't just leave the floor to the market to But anyway, gentlemen, thank you so much for your sharing and for the very many questions that have come in and the question that came in beforehand also. With that, maybe we'll bring on Zelia for her closing comments, and then we'll watch the video. And I think for everyone who's here, stay on because I think our panelists will be answering some of the questions also as the video is being played. Zelia?
That was a really great conversation. Thanks, Karam. So the takeaway that I actually had listening to all the 3 panelists is that for smart manufacturing to really scale is that the creation of awareness and also the importance of smart manufacturing among the SMEs seems to be quite critical because like you say, the contribution to GDP are from the SMEs themselves, right? And most of you have actually ranked in terms of the adoption is between like a scale of 1 to maybe 2.5 at most 3. I think there is also the need in terms of government to continue to provide subsidies and grants for companies to basically adopt smart manufacturing because as everybody knows, it may not be a cheap affair to get yourself into, right? And thirdly, I think we Rejab on the screen is that infrastructure improvement is actually required in order for smart manufacturing to actually take place. Things like I think Karam has asked a few times already in this call for TM to do 5G as soon as possible so that he can turn on his video and show us his handsome face, right? So yeah, infrastructure is equally very important. I think the other part that I heard from the presentation was talent. And I do believe this part of it would deserve, say, another session of a top index, specifically on the talent side of things. And that could be an idea that we will take into consideration for our next few sessions. Thank you so much, panelists. Karam, over to you.
Thank you. No, very good. Thanks a lot. I think with that, then we'll end today's session. Like I said, watch while the ending credits play, and the panelists will be communicating with you. Thank you all very much, and we will see you again at the next episode of Top in Tech. Thank you so much, panelists and audience especially.
Bye, everybody. Take care.